Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. My name is Sameh Wahba. I'm the Global Director for the World Bank's Urban Disaster Risk Management, Resilience and Land Global Practice. And I am also a member of the board of the Resilient Cities Network, which for us is a reflection of the importance that we put both on the issues of cities and resilience. Now, on the occasion of Earth Day today, for us, the agenda of urban resilience is really and arguably one of the most complex challenges of our times. Why? Because it sits at the intersection of two forces, urbanization and climate change, which are changing our world today. Urbanization is happening at an unprecedented pace and scale. Today, 54-55% of the world's urban population lives in cities. By 2050, we expect that figure to increase to about 70%, with cities welcoming 2.5 billion new persons in cities. That is the equivalent population of the entirety of Turkey moving into cities every year between now and 2050. As for climate change, it's resulting in the increased severity and frequency of disasters from natural hazards, and the average annualized losses is somewhere in the range of 300 billion and increasing. Now, these are compounded by other risks, including pandemics, conflict, and so on and so forth, which are putting cities really at a major strain and are putting much more onus on them to be better prepared to deal with these emergencies. So at a time when disruption is becoming the new normal, strengthening resilience and cities' emergency preparedness and response capacity is emerging as one of the most pressing priorities today. And as always, mayors are confronting agendas that a decade ago was perceived to be part of the remit of national government, things like climate change or the refugee crisis. Now, the Resilient Cities Network Chair, Mayor Turner of Houston, has released the chair's agenda focusing on investing in resilient, climate-ready infrastructure that is equitable and creates green jobs. For us at the World Bank, resilience is central to our mandate because to achieve our twin goals of alleviating extreme poverty and boosting shared prosperity, meaning improving living conditions for the bottom 40% of the population, there are three ways for us to get there. The first is sustainable and inclusive growth. The second is resilience, and the third is investing in human capital. As for resilience, our goal, which we pursue in our global practice, as well as in the Global Facility for Disaster Reduction and Recovery, which is part of our global practice, our goal is to mainstream resilience across all development sectors. And this is building on the foundation of institutional and regulatory frameworks that we have developed and are working to develop at national level. Now, what does it mean to mainstream resilience across development sector? One is to mainstream resilience in the built environment. That's our work on resilient cities, on safe schools, on resilient housing, and so on and so forth. The second dimension is mainstreaming resilience in infrastructure, including water and sanitation, energy, transport systems. The third is mainstreaming resilient safety nets and focusing on communities. And the fourth is ensuring that we always maintain a special focus on vulnerable and marginalized communities, especially on women and people with disabilities, and also focusing on places that suffer from fragility and conflict, and always on the nexus between conflict and disasters. Now, specifically on resilient infrastructure system, we are working on climate-proofing infrastructure, and we're also working on introducing a life cycle approach so that we can optimize interventions across the lifespan of the infrastructure assets. So in this regard, we work on four dimensions: systems planning, engineering and design, asset management, and contingency programming. We tackle challenges related to the lack of risk assessment in the design stage, which results in poor siting. We work on challenges of inadequate design, inadequate standards to guide that design, lack of redundancies in the systems, and the lack of proper studies and the lack of operational maintenance, which owes itself to the lack of introduction of life cycle costing that makes us focus on building something but not ensuring that the budget for its operation and maintenance is secured. We've introduced this work to strengthen the resilience of the transport sector, for instance, in many places, including small island states, which are exposed to significant impacts of natural hazards, as well as in a variety of countries, including, for instance, Mongolia, with a focus on its capital city, Ulaanbaatar. Our City Resilience Program at the World Bank is our flagship program, and it provides several interesting examples of resilient and climate-ready infrastructure that is equitable and creates green jobs, which we are in the process of supporting. So this program, which we call CRP, aims to mainstream resilience in the planning process and to scale up access to finance by crowdsourcing funds from both other donors as well as from the private sector. For attracting private investment in resilient urban infrastructure, what we focus on is the use of guarantees and other credit enhancement instruments so that we can de-risk private investment in urban infrastructure, especially when it's applied in developing countries, and we have a special focus on sub-Saharan Africa. So in several of our programs, such as in the city of Beira in Mozambique, in Accra in Ghana, in Dakar in Senegal, and in Abidjan in Côte d'Ivoire, we are tackling, for instance, the issue of severe flooding that is affecting these cities, and in particular having a devastating impact on the poor who live in the most flood-prone and impacted areas. Now, flooding is a complex problem because it touches on flood protection infrastructure, a combination of both grey and green infrastructure, but also it touches on solid waste management because uncontrolled waste and dumping clogs the flood protection infrastructure. And it also touches on the problem of uncontrolled urban expansion, which expands in the flood-prone areas. So we provide integrated solutions that include this flood protection infrastructure, which includes nature-based solutions. We also provide modern sanitary landfills as part of the overall solid waste management program. This infrastructure, for instance, for solid waste, is green, is creating jobs. Nature-based solutions, amongst the flood protection infrastructure, is also contributing to green solutions, and at the same time it can create jobs through systems like the payment for environmental services that provide small payments for farmers and poor communities to help preserve the environment. And at the same time, these types of investments can create higher land values and better site conditions. The flood protection infrastructure de-risks the flooding of the land, enables it to be planned for higher densities, more compact cities that are greener and with lower emissions, and of course more livable. Now, in the city of Beira, we have built 11 kilometers of flood protection infrastructure, which after Cyclone Idai was the only thing standing. We also built a 17-kilometer linear park at the margins of the Shebebe River, which is serving not only as a green lung to the city, but it's strengthening the city's ability to absorb and manage stormwater runoff and reduce flooding impact. So to conclude, on the occasion of Earth Day, we're reminded of the importance of strengthening urban resilience and mainstreaming resilience across sectors. It's not only a development imperative, it's also good business, good for inclusion, and good for the planet. Thank you very much.